أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من شر الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. We stopped at ruling number 11. Okay. So we are going to continue ruling number 11. So just let me quickly review ruling number 11 because the 12 and 13 are connected to ruling number 11. So we said that if Salat al-Jama'ah is established or is held or it has started during his tawaf and he had to cut the tawaf and he thought that khalas, my tawaf is invalid. So he did a new tawaf. Will that new tawaf will be sufficient? He said, yes, it will be sufficient. So question number 12. Whoever abandons 2 rounds, okay, 1 round or 2 round from the tawaf, and after completing the his actions, I mean after completing all the a'mal of Umrah, he realized Umrah or Hajj. It doesn't mention here, it doesn't specify. Anyhow, because after Tawaf there's Salat al-Tawaf, after Salat al-Tawaf there's Sa'i, at least Sa'i is there. And then we have Taqsir and Tawaf al-Nisa in case of Umrah al-Mufrada and in case of Amal al-Hajj. So all these things, A'mal, are interconnected with each other and they need to be in certain sequence. So after completing the A'mal, regardless of being taqsir in Umrah al-Tamattu or Tawaf al-Nisa, Salat al-Tawaf al-Nisa and Umrah al-Mufrada or Hajj al-Tamattu. So can he remembered, oh my goodness, I did not do the 2 rounds. Okay. So can I do the 2 rounds only or I have to redo the whole Tawaf? This is his question. And is this rule of bringing those two rounds, is it like specific for someone who has forgotten, or it is inclusive to someone who's unaware about the ruling? He was jahil. He did not know that he had to do like 7 rounds. He did 5 rounds, and he did not do 7 rounds. So what about like what is the ruling? He says, yeah, I mean, he can do the 2 rounds, okay, as qada, because he had done taqsir, he had done a lot of this a'mal. So بعد تمام الأعمال, after the completion of the a'mal, he remembered, oh, 2 rounds were forgotten. So there must be a specific narration for this. That's why, otherwise it is if somebody forgets rounds and then completes the rounds and he had left a gap, not 10 minutes gap, that's more than 10 minutes gap, like hours of gaps for sa'i. And so therefore من ترك شوطا أو شوطين من الطواف والتفت بعد تمام الأعمال, after completing all the a'mal, it is permissible with you to go back and do the 2 rounds missed. But is it specific for the person who has forgotten, or it is inclusive to someone who's unaware about it? Unaware means it doesn't know that he has to do 7 rounds. He just did 5 rounds thinking that it's 5 rounds. That's jahil, unaware. He says, no, this ruling is specific for somebody who forgot 2 rounds. As for a person who's unaware about this ruling, he needs to do the whole tawaf, 7 rounds. You need to redo the whole tawaf if the consistency had been lost. So for a person who forgot, consistency, it is not required here. But for that means it just goes and does his two rounds qada, which were missed. But for the jahil, he has to do the whole round if the consistency, continuity, commonly considered continuity, was missed. If it was not missed, then fine. But come on, I mean, okay, after Salat al-Tawaf, he remembers, oh, 2 rounds are left. Okay, it might not have gone more than 10 minutes. But doing sa'i between Safa and Marwa, that's minimum. Somebody runs here and that is 20 minutes or 25. If somebody walks fast, it's about half an hour. Normal average is not too crowded, 40-45 minutes. Crowded, it could go from 50 minutes to 1 hour plus. So that's too much gap, more than 10 minutes. And not just that, sa'i, even if it was for 1 minute, he goes to mas'a and he preoccupies himself. We are talking someone who went to the mas'a, sa'i between Safa and Marwa. He preoccupied himself with something else, which is sa'i. So mas'a is out of the platform of tawaf, and he preoccupied himself with sa'i. Okay, so finish. I mean, this guy, if it was after 2 rakat, salat al-tawaf, he remembered 2 rounds are missing, he can come and do it. If the muwalat was still there, this was less than 10 minutes. But if he had gone out of the platform of tawaf, or he had left like more than 10 minutes, then this jahil person, unaware person, ignorant person, he needs to redo the entire tawaf. Okay, what about if Salat al-Jama'ah had started? If Salat al-Jama'ah starts in the Masjid al-Haram during the first rounds of tawaf, okay? So first rounds of tawaf. فهل يكفي لإكمال الطواف بعد أن يشترك في الجماعة? So is it sufficient for him to complete the rounds, remaining rounds after Salat al-Jama'ah, or he must participate in Salat al-Jama'ah? Okay. So he says it is sufficient after the entrance of the time. يكفي إذا كان بعد دخول الوقت, after the entrance of the time, according to my ruling. That means, he says, according to me, my ruling. That means some other maraja might have different. وأتى بوظيفة المنفرد في الصلاة خلفهم. So the question is actually the gap which happens, it's compulsory, it's forcefully. He cannot resist that gap. I mean, he has to, otherwise the shurta will beat the hell out of him. Some of the shurtas, not all of the shurtas. Some of the shurtas might be polite, some of the shurta police might be rude. So anyhow, and some might be very rude. So you don't want to get into that kind of trouble. So you are compelled to just stop your tawaf. So they said that in the first rounds, okay, is it sufficient to complete that he has to, like it's sufficient just he can complete the rounds, and or he has to be in Salat al-Jama'ah? That's an excuse which allows him to complete the rounds. So he says يكفي إذا كان بعد دخول الوقت الشرعي عندنا وأتى بوظيفة المنفرد في الصلاة خلفهم. If you pray Salat Furada behind them, okay, and the time has entered, then it is sufficient. You don't have to pray Salat Jama'ah in order to continue the tawaf after Salat al-Jama'ah. You can pray Salat al-Furada, and then after they are done, and you are done, all of you, then you, like you are done your Salat al-Furada behind them, and they have done Salat al-Jama'ah. So then you can continue the tawaf. Question number 14. If during the tawaf he stops, okay, he stops his tawaf, and he performs nafila of subh, the recommended prayer of the time of morning, because you know every obligatory prayer, it is associated with certain recommended prayers before and some after. For some time, some salat, it's after. So salat al-subh is before the salat al-subh. So he was offering nafila, recommended salat 2 rakat. ولما دخل وقت الفريضة أداها فرادى. When the time of obligatory salah entered, he performed that salah furada, okay, individually, not congregationally. ثم أتم طوافه. After that, he completed his tawaf. So what is his ruling? Obviously, in previous ruling, it was mentioned that the Salah Jama'ah is not required. You don't have to pray Salah Jama'ah in order to continue the tawaf, and this more than 10 minutes gap is permissible for you. So he says, Sahha tawafuhu. His tawaf will be correct. Again, question on Salat al-Jama'ah. Okay. Now, this hypothetical scenario is not exactly happening, because according to what I observed there in Makkah, he says the question is, if Salat al-Jama'ah started, okay, before entrance of the time, according to our religious ruling, during the tawaf. So, is it sufficient for me to join them to complete the tawaf after finishing their salat? Okay. يكفي الاشتراك, to join them. Ishtirak, the questioner does not precisely ask to ishtirak what? Ishtirak in Salat al-Furada, ishtirak in Nafila. I'm going to pray Nafila behind. I'm going to pray my obligatory Salat Furada, or I'm going to pray what? It doesn't specify. It said just to be with them. Like, are you intending to just do actions? Number one, that's the possibility. Or number two, do nafila. Or number three, wajib salat. Wajib salat, nafila, we already did the answer, and he said it's okay. So this ishtirak, joining them in what? It's not specific. So anyhow, just being with them, that after the tawaf, because Sayyidi Sistani has that if you are going to break for the tawaf during Salat al-Jama'ah, you need to be doing your salat at least, not just dummy actions with them. Okay, you can do your salat nafila, or you can do farida, but the questioner says before the entrance of the time. As I said, that before the entrance of the time, even Salat al-Fajr, I have noticed, okay? So when they pray Jama'ah, our time is already set, because there's adhan before the prayer itself, and it gives you 10 minutes to 15 minutes gap, and one that is sufficient for our time. So whenever our time would enter, I will hear that iqama, and we'll pray. So that is number one. Number two, it's about nafila. Obviously, you can pray nafila in that time. um, so just acting, be with them. The answer indicates that the questioner did not ask about salah, did not ask about nafila. He asked about just being with them, because the time is not entered. So basically, Fajr time, I've seen that they start the salat on our time. Dhuhr, Asr, the time is common between both schools of thought. So Sunni school of thought and the school of Ahlul Bayt. Maghrib, Isha time, we have a difference. So they do on sunset, we have to wait until the eastern redness disappears from the horizon. Now, when the eastern redness disappears from the horizon, okay, that's the time they start Salat al-Jama'ah. This also I've noticed that they do the adhan on that time. But normally they start Salat Jama'ah after the waiting 10 minutes or 12 minutes until your time is done. However, in Maghrib Isha, if you doubt that your time has entered or not, then you can pray nafila, any recommended prayers. So in order to, during that time, in order to complete after the tawaf. So, um, yeah, and that is one of the things that the salah before entrance of time, or participating there before entrance of time, that if it goes more than 10 minutes, that is not going to be sufficient to complete the tawaf. So you have to redo the tawaf. So he says that in this case, just to participate with them, because the time is not entered, la yakfi. He said it is not sufficient. That means after the tawaf, after the salat, you have to redo the whole tawaf if the muwalat, if that 10-minute break has been disturbed. Otherwise, you can complete. أي لا يغتفر الإخلال بالموالاة المعتبرة بين أشواط الطواف المشاركة في جماعة القوم قبل دخول الوقت الشرعي للصلاة, which is unlikely. As I said, practically it is unlikely that they are praying before our time. You see, that what I have noticed is that both our time, Fajr and Dhuhr, it's noted. Asr, obviously. I mean, when you come Asr time and you have not prayed Dhuhr, so you'll pray Dhuhr and Asr. But in Maghrib and Isha, as I recall that Maghrib also, they don't pray immediately after Adhan. They give some pause of 10-12 minutes, and that's sufficient in those countries for the eastern redness to be disappeared. So, he says that just participating and that it's not our time for Salat, that is not sufficient. Um, so he said it's not sufficient. um, لا يغتفر الإخلال بالموالاة. It is not permissible, uh, or that kind of gap. Okay. لا يغتفر الإخلال بالموالاة المعتبرة في أشواط الطواف بالمشاركة. That means you have to make sure that the consistency are there. If your consistency is gone, then you have to redo the tawaf. Okay. So he said that, let me rephrase the answer properly because, okay, it is not sufficient. Okay. If the gap of Salat Jama'ah, which is held by them, okay, before our time, it's a hypothetical situation, before our time, is more than the commonly considered gap between the rounds, then he will have to redo the tawaf. If it is less, then he doesn't have to redo, he can continue. And this gap, why it is not permissible if it is more than 10 minutes? Because it is participating in salat which our time has not entered yet. That's the nutshell. So you are participating in a dummy or in something like that. So if our time has not entered and you pray salat with them, then that gap, you will have to check whether it was more than 9 minutes, 10 plus, or no, 9 and below. So if it was 9 and below, you can continue. If it is 9 and plus, no, you need to redo the tawaf. Yeah. Let's say somebody decides, question number 16, somebody decides that I'm going to discontinue my tawaf, intends, and then after that he completes it. So what is his ruling? So the question here is, if like fasting, if you say fasting, I'm not going to continue my fasting, so then you will have to intentionally, deliberately, you made that intention. So then you said, okay, let me continue. So this kind of fasting, you need to make up qada for this because you broke the intention. Fasting is all about keeping the intention intact from the time of the dawn till the dusk or till the sunset. Okay. This time from dawn till sunset needs to be consistent. If you break the intention, fast is all intentional based. So will this be applied, the rule of breaking the intention be applied here in the tawaf Okay, because there, if you say, okay, no, let me continue, but you broke your intention. So can I eat? No. If you eat, there'll be penalty. So what? Continue. So then you and make it up one day. So here, I said, okay, I changed my mind. I said, let me just continue the tawaf. So can I continue the tawaf? Okay. Or no, I have to redo the whole thing. So he says that this type of breaking the intention is not sufficient to break the tawaf, okay, in itself. لا أثر للنية. There is no effect of this type of intention of discontinuing in itself. Yes, if it was associated with breaking the mualat, the consistency, any other thing, then yes. But just you intend that I'm breaking my tawaf, and then you say I continue, and the muala has not been missed, fine. Let's continue. Don't worry about it. So by itself, the intention has no effect, as long as if there was no, it was not associated with something in reality breaks the tawaf. Question number 17. What about someone who recites ayatul sajda? Okay. During the second round from the tawaf, what should he do? Go down and pray and be stampeded by the stampede coming behind you. I mean, why do you want to recite Ayatul Sajda during the tawaf? I mean, there are people they recite Quran, that's fine. But avoiding reciting things that you will be in trouble, because if you recite the four obligatory Ayatul Sajda, which has obligatory sujood, are four in the Quran. Avoid reciting those surahs, okay? Avoid reciting. So, yeah. So let's say this guy recited Ayatul, the verse of prostration, which requires obligatory prostration during the second round from the tawaf. So what should he do? He says, go to sujood. And I say, be prepared for being stampeded from the crowd behind you. They'll start falling on you one after another. Okay, you might become Shaheed of Makkah al-Mukarramah. Okay, you have to go to sujood. فإن فاتت بذلك الموالاة. Let's say this person was hyperbolic irfani guy. He would, wajib is just to go sujood. It's mustahab to do dhikr. And he said, no, I'm going to do dhikr. I'm going to recite some lengthy dua in my sujood. The dua yastashir or dua, by the way, he had memorized it. Okay, subhaniyah, there's lots, because it's mustahab to do dhikr in the sujood. So he started, chose one dua which is more than 9 minutes. Okay, then obviously you have to redo your tawaf. That is if you stand up alive from there. That is if you are doing tawaf between Maqam Ibrahim and Hajj al-Aswad, the wall of the Kaaba. And that is if you are like on the war zone of Hajj al-Aswad. So chances are that you might not come back to life. But anyhow, they don't care about anybody that zone. You are done. So he says that it is obligatory upon him to go immediately. Yalzamu sujud. It is obligatory to perform the sujud. And can he continue? He can continue if the consistency did not got lost, the commonly considered consistency. Al-Muwala al-Urfiyya was not missed, which in between the tawaf. Otherwise, if it was missed, then you have to redo the whole tawaf. So until here, we are done with the interruption in tawaf. I have few rulings of next section is increasing in tawaf. So there are only like 6 questions. I think I can cover them in the time remaining we have. So let's check the second section of increasing az-ziyada fi tawaf. If someone made an intention, question number 1, to do the obligatory tawaf 7 rounds, and one extra round for the blessings. So his intention was 7 rounds precisely are going to be for tawaf. 7 precisely in obligatory tawaf. He did not say, I am performing 8 rounds of tawaf or Umrah al-Mufrada or Umrah al-Tamattu or Hajj al-Tamattu or Tawaf. He did not make that intention. He made intention, Ya Allah, I'm performing 7 rounds for Umrah al-Mufrada or Umrah al-Tamattu or Tawaf al-Hajj or Tawaf al-Nisa. So his intention is the 7 are the rounds which are obligatory. And he's going to add one intention was that, and one I will do blessings just for the barakah. So what would be the ruling of his tawaf? He says that that extra round will not affect his tawaf because it was not based on the intention of the obligatory tawaf. لا يضر ذلك بطواف. It will not affect his tawaf. Question number 2. If there was a probability of invalidation of some of the rounds of his tawaf. So he has a probability, not certainty. Okay. So can he add on a round or 2 rounds as a precautionary measure? But remember, precautionary for what? For the obligatory tawaf. So he's going to increase obligatory tawaf, not barakah, not increase obligatory tawaf, but with the intention of precautionary. That means if I had missed, if my 2 rounds were invalid, then at least Alhamdulillah I did the 7 rounds. If my those 2 rounds were okay, then this would be barakah. To patch up the gap, which if the probable gap. What if he does that? So he said that if the tawaf was considered valid, okay, it would not be permissible to add precautionary rounds to patch up or to fix the probable probable invalid rounds. So his certainty, his tawaf is okay. His tawaf was judged as okay. If his tawaf was judged as valid, mahkum bis sahha, you can't add 2 rounds or 1 or 2 rounds ihtiyatan. It would not be permissible for him to add on a precautionary tawaf to fix the probable to patch up the probable errors of the tawaf. So what if somebody did it intentionally, deliberately, knowingly, this and that? I mean, obviously he should not do that. It's invalid. What if somebody was unaware about this ruling that he should not? He said their unawareness are 2 types. One is someone who doubted and never asked, or who had the resources but never checked, or he had the time but never learned. So all these are intentional ignorance. He caused himself to be in this situation of ignorance. However, if somebody tried but could not find an answer, or somebody attended but it was not mentioned, somebody tried to not to be ignorant, okay, but still he was unaware, then that it will not affect his tawaf, okay, his or her tawaf. It will not affect his tawaf. So this is, so now in this, adding adding precautionary rounds for probable error is not permissible. Okay, if you do intentionally, deliberately, kiss your tawaf goodbye. If you do it out of unawareness, but intentional unawareness, you kept yourself in a situation that you are unaware, then also kiss your salah goodbye. However, if your unawareness was unintentional, then it's going to be okay, correct, valid. Oh my goodness. This guy has reached the highest level of Irfanism and hyperbolic Irfanism. Question number 3. Shakhs, a person did 14 rounds of tawaf. Where do you want to reach Jannat as fast as possible or what? So much Irfanism, so much hyperbolic power. Irfanism 2025 or something like that. Okay. I'm not talking about the moderate ones. I'm talking about the extreme ones. Okay. The extreme Irfanis, sometimes they do things, they go beyond the Sharia, beyond the religious realms of limitations. So a person performed the tawaf 14 rounds, um, uh, he thinking that that is obligatory upon him, believing that that is obligatory upon him. So what is his ruling? Again, there are two types of ignorant. If it was ignorant, unintentional, okay, and we several times mentioned what is unintentional, that he tried his best to know, but nobody taught him. He did not encounter any doubts. He just whatever he learned, and he did. So for this person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take 7 rounds and that's it. The extra will be barakah. However, if somebody was intentionally ignorant or knowingly, deliberately, then he says it's problematic. The validity is problematic. That means he needs to redo or refer to some other marja and check out. But just redo it. It's better whenever you find out. If question number 4. In the tawaf of Umrah al-Mufrada, if someone adds a round out of heedlessness and discontinues it before completing it, before reaching the Hajar al-Aswad, but he had a doubt that would this be an extra, like he had a doubt that this is extra round I'm doing. So he added one round out of heedlessness and then he discontinued before completing it, uh, having doubt that it is extra. Okay, why did he discontinue? Because of the doubt. This seems to be extra, because out of heedlessness he did extra round, then he discontinued. Why? Thinking that, doubting that this is the extra, I should discontinue. After that he realized that no, it was his obligatory round which he discontinued until he came back to his hometown. So is there anything upon him? He says it is problematic to consider that tawaf correct, because he did six plus fraction of the 7th round. He discontinued the 7th round, so he did 6 rounds, and there was a fraction of 7th round not completed, because before reaching Hajar Aswad he discontinued, thinking that this may be the extra round. So he said it is problematic to consider this. So the validity of this round is problematic. This tawaf, the validity of this tawaf is problematic. Therefore, it is compulsory that he observe the measures of precaution. What is the measures of precaution? Find someone else to perform all these tawaf and amal of Umrah al-Mufrada on your behalf. If it was tawaf al-Nisa, let him do tawaf al-Nisa. If it was tawaf al-Umrah, then let him do the tawaf al-Umrah, the sa'i between Safa and Marwa, taqsir and tawaf al-Nisa, the whole thing. Okay? Or you go by yourself and do it. And you do it after you're doing your own Umrah first. Unless if you were in 30 days of your previous Umrah, then you don't need to enter Makkah with the Ihram. So you can enter Makkah with ihram to fulfill this, to do the qada, because you are still in the state of ihram. So if you did not, if your tawaf was not correct, your taqsir was not correct, that means you are still in the state of ihram. So if you go Makkah less than 30 days, then you're still in the state of ihram, or even more than 30 days, you are still in the state of ihram. You did not exit your ihram. If you are going to do it by yourself, which is very much unlikely, but if you tell someone to do on your behalf, then you are still in ihram in your hometown until he says that I am done taqsir. Then you can take off your ihram, and then if he says I'm done tawaf in nisa and 2 rakat tawaf in nisa, then you can have your spousal relations. But until, if you realize that your tawaf has been problematic, it depends on which tawaf. If tawaf in nisa, then spousal relations prohibited. If tawaf of umrah, then the whole thing, you are in the state of ihram, and you need to wear your dress of ihram and become and go to your work at the university or wherever, like Dalai Lama, but that is wearing orange, and you are going to wear white cloth and go to there and explain them. Otherwise, they'll think you have lost your mind. Explain to them that I'm not hyperbolic Irfani guy. No, I messed up with my actions, and I'm still in my tawaf, or take a vacation, leave without pay or whatsoever. But you are in the state of ihram, if because you did not exit the ihram. That's why we say, please go, when you go to Umrah and Hajj, please know your rulings, know what makes you come out of ihram. Otherwise, you'll come back home in the state of ihram. And if you're not learning the ahkam, then don't go to Makkah. Just go to Medina al-Munawwar, do the ziyarat of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam. You don't need to be in Makkah. If you want to do Makkah, do it right. Know your rulings. So yeah, so he says that the question number 5, during the sa'i between Safa and Marwa, he realized that he had increased in his tawaf out of heedlessness. What should he do? Because you can't increase in the tawaf with the intention of tawaf. Baraka, okay, but not with the intention of obligatory tawaf. So he increased. He thought it was 7th round, and he did 8th round. And then someone wise guy came to mess up with everything. You know something, that you have done only 7 rounds. No, not 7 rounds. You have done 8 rounds. 8 rounds. I did 7 rounds. No, no, no. You did 8 rounds. You and your big mouth. Why do you have to open your mouth now? It's good for you. It's good for you. Fix it now. Otherwise, you have to become like Dalai Lama in your hometown. So he says that he realized during the sa'i that he had increased 1 round, or increased a few rounds out of heedlessness. So what should he do? The answer, obligatory precaution. He needs to go back to the Kaaba and complete one full round with the intention of qurb al-mutlaqa. Okay, a complete full round. Let's say he did extra 2 rounds. So now he has done 9 rounds. So go and complete 5 rounds over it. So you did like one full tawaf, 7 rounds, and the other 2 rounds were with 5 rounds. It's a second tawaf qurbatan lillahi ta'ala. But don't leave it like that, because now your tawaf is considered 10 rounds. So add 5 rounds, so that now you have done 2 tawafs. One is tawaf of Umrah or Hajj or whatever wajib tawaf. The second one is the barakah or recommended tawaf. So he said, on the basis of obligatory precaution, he should go back to the Kaaba and complete the rounds over those extra rounds, okay, to make it a one full tawaf of 7 rounds, with the intention of achieving the nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then after that, he performs the 2 rakat, and then he goes and performs the sa'i, completes his sa'i between Safa and Marwa. And recommended precaution is to repeat the sa'i. okay, after this interruption. But he says he can come after he does his tawaf, 2 rakat tawaf of Qurb al Mutlaqa. He just goes and because if the first tawaf was invalid, the 2 rounds plus 5, he just made a new tawaf. But what about muwalat? We said if a person forgets, then the muwalat is exceptional case. What about the sa'i? Yes, so he can break the sa'i and complete the tawaf and then go back and do the sa'i. Sa'i is, if it's interrupted, it's not a big deal like tawaf. Last question, question number 6 in this section. Let's say you and your wife, or you and your brother, or you and your buddy, and you and your halal bromance brother, whom you always want to do the everything together, the tawaf together, the sa'i, ziyarat together. I know, mashallah, amazing youth there are there to always, they want to do things together in their life, pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I call it Islamic bromance, or if it is correct to say. Anyhow, so they were depending on each other. So one said, I'll recite the dua, you keep the count. So one was given the responsibility of the count. So من اعتمد على غيره, whoever depends on someone else to keep the count of his tawaf. After that, he realized that the one whom you depended upon had made an error, and you had performed, and that he had performed 8 rounds. So in this case, what type of ignorance is this? Is it unintentional or intentional? Is it considered unintentional ignorance? Because he tried his best. He tried his best, and out of unawareness, the extra round was performed. So, this unawareness, what would we consider? He tried, he depended on someone, and he trusted at someone, and he knows that this someone is reliable. But subhanAllah, is a human. So he messed up by oh, still we have 1 round left, and he did. And after that, they realized, oh, 8 rounds. So, so will this be will this person be considered? Or will this unawareness be considered unintentional unawareness, so that tawaf is valid, or they have to repeat? He says no. Apparently, the tawaf is valid. You see, because he tried his best not to remain unaware. And the next section will be doubts, questions about doubts in tawaf. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, we'll meet in our next session.